this is Korean Day. You all excited? It's the food, right? Can you put that up there? So, the title in English is called Dawn of Glory. She said this is better. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's okay? Okay, because I have no idea what the room is. So in English it's called Dawn of Glory. In Korean will be 영광의 달. And in Japanese, Eiko no Okatsuki. Because this seems to be like a three main language you hear everywhere. So I put it like that. So I'm just proud I could put that in Japanese too. So we are all interested in learn more about Korea because true parents come from there, right? That's the reason. Because true parents come there, we want to know more about Korea, right? So we know true parents. Because true parents come there, we want to know about the land of Korea, not the other way, right? Well, about 500 years ago, there was a man. Now, don't quote me. He traveled all over the world, all over Korea, mountains, rivers, weathers, vegetables, animals, and he went into the cave and meditated. One day she realized this is the land where the master is coming. This was prophesied 500 years ago. He left a book called Jeongamnok. This mentioned in Divine Principle, you must have heard of this. So it was prophesied like that 500 years ago, and a couple of hundred years later, that book has an author, but it was also prophesied that the Messiah will come in the land of the Lord, in the land of Korea. So we want to know about Korea because true parents came. But then there were some people who traveled the nature and knew this is where the master is coming. Look at that, two different ways. How is this possible? How is this possible? Because we know when God created, from the beginning to the end, the whole thing, it might be truth body symbolic, or we, image level, and God, every level, everything, it has true God's care, love, and power comes from the beginning to the end. It connects the whole universe. We all come from stardust, that's our body, all the way from the material to the end. So those who are really master, they can feel this unity. So one of the requirements why the master has to come in Korea, it has to show to be able to feel through the nature. This is one of the requirements why true parents comes in Korea. You know, Father in his last time, maybe a couple of years before, he took his helicopter and went to an island called Geomundo. It's a small, unknown island called Geomundo. He landed on top of a mountain with a rock. He fondled, and means he touched and caressed the mountain. Say, you be good, I have to go. It's almost like I'm leaving this earth. In this small island, look at his mind understanding of a unity of a physical world and the spiritual world, heaven and earth. That's a true mind of the Messiah. Isn't that really amazing? So he developed small country, Pyeongchang. It became the location where they had a Winter Olympics. And Yosu, so you understand, Father, his mind, how nature, God's will, spiritual world, it really combines it together. So this is why and if you look at today's Russian and Ukrainian war, this island called Crimea, it's in the middle of a battleground. If you look at the geography, you can see how this is possible. Well, anyway, just to say, that island, some 20 years ago, Unification Church held the biggest workshop there. I know some of you went there to teach, right? Crimea. And what I'm just saying is that the land itself, it's very mysterious. There is a true unity between physical world and spiritual world. So one of the requirements that why fathers, true parents should come in Korea is it has enough prophecy. So that's one. So it says, amazingly, this book, it describes the 500 years all the way up to here, what kind of tribulations, troubles it will go through until he actually comes. And it's almost like describing Christian 7-year tribulation before the coming of the Lord. So it's really amazing. It even describes which mountain he comes. And I went there, visited. Anyway, won't go there too deeply. So that's where it was prophesied. This is one of the requirements. So when he comes, some of you read Divine Principle 100 times, I know. In the last part of Divine Principle, it describes Messiah comes as a child. And unificationists, we have no problem. But the Christians think, Jesus came as a baby. When he comes back, he doesn't have to come baby anymore. So how can he come baby once more? So they have a lot of reason why Father says Messiah comes as a child. So Father came 1920, January 1st, 6th, address so 2221, actual address. It's a concrete thing. It comes from the long accumulation of the whole support of the nature, the whole universe. The principle says he comes as a child, and then he does not follow biological lineage. It actually says that. And Divine Principle, it devotes like more than 15 pages on that topic. It's really amazing. You can go back and read it. True, Messiah comes as a child. It doesn't say male child. It doesn't say female child. He comes as a child. It does not follow biological lineage. So what does he follow? What kind of a lineage does he follow? It follows the lineage started from Abel, all the heart and love that came from all the way from Abel to Noah, Abraham. God's heart becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. It follows that lineage. So imagine that. So of course, Jesus said, who's my father, who's my parents? Those who listen to Father is my father and my brothers and sisters, right? So this is really correct. There's a parallel history between God's side of history and a fallen side of history. So it follows that lineage. And just to give you this story, I just read this morning, Father was creating a holy ground, and the holy ground he selected 40 countries. And I always knew Father created holy ground all over the world. I thought this would be natural, America. I went through the list, and it did not include all the countries that I thought naturally we include. It doesn't have any of those countries. I was shocked. 40 countries is not, like Russia or China or Brazil or Argentina. All these big countries are not included there. And America it should have only one holy ground, but 40 countries, it has 120 holy ground. Father selected 120 holy ground spread into 40 nations. And all those nations, I was, surprised. It was not what I thought. Anyway, this history, one side God's lineage, one side God's side of history, it has a distinct and at the same time. So now, Father Messiah comes first as a child, does not follow biological lineage, but underneath God's will and power, it creates new person. It's not so much, it's not so much chosen or destined or anything. Well, in Oriental culture, we call that palja. Does that anyone understand? Like a fate. It's not a good translation. Palja, 8 letters. It almost like your. Actually, if you say to the parents born in Korea, why? Is that a legitimate question? No, you don't have to answer me because I don't really know. So why? So that is the way it is. We didn't have a choice to be born. We are all born from God's. We have no business asking why he was doing it. So, because he comes as a child, all the things that Korea went through before then is a past, right? So, because he comes as a child, he comes as a third attempt from God's point of view. He started Adam, and then Jesus, and then Father. So he's a third Adam, and because we know principle, third time he must succeed. Is that right? Well, I don't say anything that divine principle or true parents doesn't say. So because he comes as a third Adam, Korean history tend to repeat all the indemnity history, especially number 40. So it's very interesting. In Korea, we celebrate October 3rd. October 3rd is you will say independence. It says opening of heaven. And we celebrate 4,350 years. And we celebrate this October 3rd. 4,358 years, it corresponds 430 years in Egypt, 400 this and this, before and after. So it has this repeated history of paying indemnity. It also mentions 40 years under Japan. Anyway, because he comes at the third time, Korean history seemed to repeat. So this is, if Father points out, we'll know. But if you study Korean history, we wouldn't know. That's what it's doing. So because of that, it went through. During this period, somehow Korean people, it developed inner suffering, endurance, and sacrifice. So we have as you know, we have a lot of invasion from north. But as I grew up very near very near Chinese border, but I don't remember having any kind of enmity, hatred toward Chinese or Japanese, because all we had was invasion from somewhere from north. So we have this long history. Well, because see Korea, how it's built, it's a peninsula. And it's connected to north. If somebody invaded from north, we had no place to go. It is like in a pouch. Nobody can come in. We couldn't go anywhere. Just sit there and take everything in. So in God's way, it takes thousands of years to create a culture that's centered on true parents, heavenly parents, tradition. So he needed to create some kind of a unified people. It's like a fate, We had no place to go. So it developed. I always thought one nation means one tribe. And I was shocked. Many countries have many different tribes. It took me a long time to understand. I thought one nation means one country, one people, and one language. And I found that, wow, this is incredible, because that's how we grew up. So one side, remember, it created a woman's side of character during the restoration period. Sacrifice, silence, endurance, all this is feminine side of providence. So that's where mother is going to come. Mother will say this, but it's very strange. The father says, okay, this is why maybe God has a second chance. If no one can trust men, maybe women can try. So this is my interpretation. a masculine Israel, and the other side, feminine side, Korea. It's the same thing parallel through a Jewish history behind the Korean history, also thousands of years old. So this is why the culture is formed that way, how a woman should be, how men should be. So because of, I wouldn't go into all this history, but it developed a lot of internal nature or whatever, that requires what the Messiah would have to go through. So then, requirement number one, it has to go through indemnity history. It has to meet to the Father's heart, and also it has to have a sufficient amount of prophecy. And the last one, because true Father comes on a world level, Jesus comes as a national level. Do you understand this, right? Father comes on a national world level. He has to do the whole thing all over again. So when he comes, he'll have to be able to unify Canaan, Abel, and a worldwide. That's why we have Korea is divided into two, north and south. It's a final, it's the most difficult. That is why Korea is divided. It's not a politics or economy or anything like this. So now, so we have this part. The second part, the Messiah comes as a parent. First, it comes as a child. Second, he comes as a parent. So this is very important to know. Look at the time, the distance between when Messiah comes as a child and he also comes as a parent. There is a big difference, right? So this is not it's not done instantaneously. Of course, we like to believe when Father was born, he was born as a child, as a Father, as a Messiah, King, and the bride, and all that. He have that potential because Adam was born that way. Although it has to go through the growing period, right? Do you understand? So Messiah comes as a child in a concrete way that's supported by the whole universe, whole thing. Now, before I forget that, I was going to say, who's chosen and who's not chosen? I think from top to bottom, if you're at the bottom, you receive all the love from top to bottom, all the way. You receive everything, right? You understand? The lower you get more love from you get parents, your brothers and sisters, everything. The youngest one gets more. So no one in God's providence and his love, no one is really chosen for any privilege. You can't complain. Everybody is in absolute happiness when you're totally united all together. So Korea or somebody chosen, that's not really, I don't think that's how it is. Well, anyway, to the parent Messiah comes as a child and then as a parent. And there's a lot of distance they have to live through. This is very important because our responsibility is to be able to inherit the lives, ideology, their accomplishment, everything from their born, when they become true parents. We have a responsibility to inherit all this. And their truth, their ideology, their lifestyle, their accomplishment, the way they think, the way they dance, the food, clothes and everything. Finally, language too. So we have to be able to inherit all this 100%, plus our contribution. And all together, we inherit, plus what we can add. Together, we should build a kingdom. So, to illustrate about this inheritance, Father says, did Christians inherit Jesus' heart? Did Christianity today, did they inherit Jesus' heart? No, not at all. Look at Christians from the beginning, thousands and millions of people gave their lives, right? Even in Korea, we have thousands of people because they believe in Jesus. They had their head chopped. So this thing went through this, and we say they could not inherit Jesus' heart. This is really amazing, because Jesus' heart on the cross, he's dying. He's a lot more worried about what's going to happen to the people and to God. So that's absolute heavenly parents, unity with God. That inheritance, when the Christianity went through all these persecutions and dying and eaten up by the lion, is an indemnity. It's not actually, in other words, it does not. In other words, if these people are going through catacomb, they were killed and they were eaten by lions, their true heart that they were supposed to inherit from Jesus would be that they really don't worry about what happened to them and really truly worry about the rest of the world. Now, this is a little bit, if I think about it, this is absolutely impossible. Would you be able to really, you are dying on the cross and worry about others, And Jesus looked at his disciple John. He was sorry for his mother, because if his mother, if it wasn't him, she would have a normal life. So he felt sorry, said, John, you take care of her. So this kind of inheritance, you're talking about the standard of inheritance we must inherit, unbelievable. What we have to do. And this is our pacha, it's our fate. Either you do it or you will be left behind. So what we're supposed to inherit, and this is really, remember mother says that she couldn't find one daughter or one son in like haystack. She couldn't find no one because it didn't have an environment. We'll talk about that word environment later, but that's what happened. So what I'm emphasizing is that our responsibility is a total inheritance of true parents, and add my contribution and build the kingdom of heaven. Can we say, I can do it? Can you say that? I mean, this is really incredible, because are we lucky or not lucky at all? It would have been better if we didn't know this. So if you are in that situation, you might as well do your best. Says you're a great opportunity in your lifetime. Either you are really put your life and get into a really serious, or man, that's really like the Christians. They believe in Jesus, I'm saved, have no idea what Jesus' heart is. And we don't want to find ourselves in that situation. So now you can enjoy your life. Thank you.